Welcome to our third episode of Voices and Choices. My name is Benny, and that's my co-host.
Kelly Couch. And our guest today on Voices and Choices is no stranger to the neighborhood.
Wow.
It's even hard to introduce you, bro.
Word.
This is my big brother. His name is Destro DR. So some of you
sir.
know Destro as the friendly neighborhood poet. Others know DR as the voiceover artist.
Yep.
Others know DR as the lyricist, the guy that drops 16s. Others know him in the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah.
So today we're just sitting with him to delve into what he's about so that we can mine his mind.
Wow.
Destro, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
No, that's really amazing. Thank you for making time.
No problem. As always, immediately you call me, I can show up.
That's really good to hear.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I think we should delve into the episode.
Yeah.
Destro.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I mentioned, a lot of titles to your name.
Ish.
How would you love people to experience you? Who's Destro from Destro's lens?
A storyteller.
Storyteller.
I think that aptly covers whatever medium I either show up as or get to use to tell a story.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about storytelling because at the end of the day, everybody has a story to tell, and some others want their story told. So yeah,
So you're the guy that fits in that.
I guess I don't think where I am and what I do is by accident.
Okay.
I believe everything has been intentional over the years, and it just depends on like the practicality I apply to all of these like hats. They say we're a jack of all trades, master of none, but you can be a jack of all trades and master of some. So yeah,
Okay, so what have you mastered, if I may ask?
nothing,
Yet.
nothing yet. But I continually practice whatever title it is that people acclimatize to my name. So if it's in the writing space, there's so many different elements under the writing space. There's authoring. There's what we call copywriting. This is in your advertising space.
Yeah.
Everything that makes it to your billboards, social media posts, videos, TV commercials, radio commercials, leaflets, whatever material that an entity or a company has to put out. Usually there's a copywriter behind that, right? Because the copywriter embodies the story they want to tell to the consumer, right? And then there's rapping as well. There's the poetry as well. Yeah, so those are like the main, I would say, disciplines of writing that I delve into a lot more. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think for me, Destro, I don't even know what to start from. I think I was having this conversation with Ben. I was telling him like Destro is someone that pours into me. So like I've had numerous conversations with him about a lot of things. So I don't even know where to start from when I sit down with him. But before Ben delves into asking what he has to ask, I think aside from me knowing you from your lens, my question is, what drives your passion? Because I'll give a context as to why I'm asking this question.
Yeah.
I know a lot of poets that started doing spoken word maybe 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, on the scene, you've been on the scene and you've stayed consistent and you've stayed relevant. What drives that passion? I think let's start from there.
This reminds me of a conversation I was having with a poet. I don't know if you know Mwelwa.
Yeah,
On course.
On course, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's even back in the country.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mwelwa. So he also made similarly that same observation. He was like, Des, me who talks to you, I know that you haven't been entirely active on the poetry scene a good 2 years. Good 2-3 years. You haven't been like entirely active, but you're relevant. And we were at a hip-hop show, right? It was a hip-hop show. And even there, he was like, you're also relevant here. Like the kids who are here doing their thing, they're giving you big ups. Like, bruh, how did you get to be relevant. And honestly, to this day, I still don't have an answer for that, right? But to answer what drives my passion, or what makes whatever it is that I apply myself to relevant, I would say it's God, because I write from a place of conviction, not out of convenience. It is very convenient to make a hit song. I'm a songwriter as well, so I know what it takes to make a hit song. But personally, for my artist journey, I've never tried to let me do a hit song, because I know all the elements that are involved, right? So why haven't I done that for myself? It's because the message that I have to give supersedes the convenience of being popular for what I do, right? And it's not like I asked to be popular or to be known for what I do. I never really even consider myself to be someone who is like out there where people can go like, oh yeah, that guy, we know him for this and that. I'm what you call an artist's artist. Like in the art spaces, the name Destro is known. Like almost every artist knows Destro. Even artists I'm meeting for the first time, they're like, yeah, I'm familiar with your work. I'm actually a big fan. And I'm like, you have 30K followers. I don't think I have 1K. And when I look at those things, I'm like, wow, truly whatever it is I've been hearkening myself to has created this impact to the point that it's building its own legacy without me trying to do as much. And for me, that's where I get my definition for being called to something. If you don't have to work too hard for the impact to be felt, you are probably called to those things or to that area, and that's how I've grown, not only in the writing, but also in the artist space and so forth. And that's what keeps me going, because I always look out for what needs to be said that no one is saying, right? And it doesn't matter whether so many people are saying it at the moment, or if the popular voices are, maybe driving a trend towards something else. At the end of the day, whatever it is that has been placed upon me to say will find its space. It will find its relevance. I did a poetic album in 2018. AudioMac sends me emails every day, telling me that people are still listening to the project. They're still listening to the project today, and this is 6 years ago. There's someone who hit me up on Facebook Messenger, and they were like, the things you were saying on track 7, those are the things that are happening now. And I'm like, I didn't plan for that. I'm not a prophet, but obviously, because I said, okay, Lord, I submit this area of my life to you, he found his own way of creating relevance for it. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, what drives me is conviction, writing from a place of conviction.
Nice.
That's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I'm kidding.
So just to pick it up from where you started, you said you're a storyteller and you've got different disciplines like writing, using your voice, poetry. Yeah. So I can see the core of it is using your voice. I remember seeing your post, I think this past week or last week, where you're talking about how the doctor said you couldn't speak. I'd just like you to share the story, so if there are any people that haven't.
They haven't seen that story. So what happened was I was born and I didn't cry. I don't know if, because I only saw this from like cartoons where the doctor will slap the baby's bum and then the baby will cry, right? I don't know if that's what they did when I was born as well. But when I was born, all those decades ago, I didn't cry.
Yeah.
They were concerned. They were like, no, he's blinking, so he is alive. But okay. So they had me under observation for like a few days. And I'm telling the story the way my mom tells it.
Yeah.
Right? My late mother. So she used to tell me how they had me under observation for a few days, but she was there. She made sure she didn't leave me in the hospital with caregivers or whatever. She had to be there for whatever they decide, because she's a mother. Yeah. Right? It's important that she knows what they want to say. Yeah. So if I remember her correctly, she was like, they came to the suggestion of maybe the tongue is sealed at the bottom of the jaw. So if we can just cut, maybe then he'll be able to cry. To cry. The healing process will take this long, this, that, and the third. And my mom was like, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I think he'll speak at his own time. And you can imagine you are not a doctor. So they feel like their intelligence has been insulted.
True.
At this point. What do you mean? And so on and so forth. So my grandmother, God rest her soul, she's Zulu. So they did this traditionally. They would, like when a baby doesn't cry, they would cut the tongue out. If it's not the tongue, they'll cut underneath the tongue just so the baby could cry, so that the baby could speak.
Yeah.
Right? So what had happened was my grandmother now comes in and tries to convince my mom and say, hey, look, if you don't want them to do it, where we come from, we do this for a living. We do this. You know, this is our thing.
Small issue.
It's small issue. You know, so let us go about it and cut his tongue out, or cut from underneath the tongue. I don't know, because there's that guy. I don't even know what they call it. I've forgotten my biology, but whatever it is, it holds it's the connection between the tongue and the palate, the bottom palate of the mouth or the jaw. So she was still like, nah, I strongly feel he'll speak when it's time. Ah, no, my grandmother pushed and pushed. And she said, no. A year later, I don't know what I was doing, but whatever it is I was doing, I was a very adventurous little baby. So I did something, and then I cried. And then instead of my mother coming and showing concern, she celebrated. She was like, he can cry. Wow, this is amazing. So I knew it. And by the time I was like 11 or 12 when she was telling me this story initially, because I used to get into a lot of fights because of what I would say, right? So she felt the need to tell me this story. And she was simply like, but God will use you for this same thing that has gotten you into a fight. God will use it, you know. And that morning when I was sharing that story, it's just something I thought of. Like, wow, who knew that talking would make sense?
Yeah.
Right? I grew up in a culture where they tell you vehemently, don't talk too much. You know what I mean? Because you get in trouble, you say things the wrong way and get other people in trouble. Because when you're a kid, you're around so much that is happening. You hear everything your parents are gossiping about, because parents gossip. Let them not lie to you. They gossip about their siblings, their cousins, what's happening at work, and you, if you're a kid, you can imagine, which even reminds me of a story. This one time, my mother was complaining to her sister, my aunt, about a figure at work. Now, this figure happened to come and visit us. And I remember telling him what I heard my mom say. And for me, there was nothing doing.
Yeah.
But that got her in trouble. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, so when I connect all of these things together, I'm like, okay. I come from a culture where you mustn't speak unless spoken to, more or less. And then at the same time, I have this proclivity to express myself, to speak, to talk as much as I need to. So when you put those two worlds together, you're like, nah, they can't. It's either you're quiet or you're extroverted, right? It's either you're an introvert or you're an extrovert. So when I got saved is when, if I'm being entirely honest, I started to discover ways in which my voice could be used or utilized. Yeah. Before getting saved, there was no sense of purpose, right? Even for talking, there was no sense of purpose. But after getting saved, it's been 12 years now. Yeah. So after getting saved, that's when now you start discovering, wait, I can rap. I used to admire rappers. Then all of a sudden I can rap. I can do poetry. Wow, what is this? And then you start now being given like role models and people you can look up to and learn after.
Yeah.
So, and all of them were using their voice to express themselves. So for me, I felt like, okay, this is a blessing. And that's how I began to learn more and more how to submit it also to God so that He can use it for His glory. And yeah, you kind of like find a balance after that.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. I think in our first part of this discussion, you mentioned something about how you write from a place of convenience, and you write from a place of conviction and not convenience. And you said it's because the message that you have supersedes popularity, if I remember correctly. I think I want to touch base on that particular thing.
Word.
What is the message that you have that supersedes this popularity that you mentioned?
So I say it all the time, but I say it as an acronym. I always say DR. That basically means deliver relevance. It's a tongue twister for most people, right? Deliver relevance. That's pretty much been my motto since I got saved. You know, so every time I say DR, I'm basically saying I'm here to deliver relevance, and I believe because I've been saying that. That's what the art took shape into that. It just became a matter of delivering relevance, you know. So
what is relevance to you?
Relevance to me is the Great Commission. The Great Commission is relevant today. It's over 2,000 years old. Over 2,000 years old, and we still debate it. We still that echoes relevance. You know, like Jesus was so relevant. They argued about him before he was born and after he died, right? So that is quite enigmatic when you consider like historical debates. Like, why was this person such a pivotal point of history that even before he's born, you're making provisions for his death? And, you know, you're debating whether or not he's the real deal. And after he's gone, 2,000 years later, we're still arguing, is God real? Is Jesus the real Messiah? When is he coming back? He said he'd be back. He ain't back yet. All of that echoes relevance to me because at the end of the day, it carries purpose. And that's what relevance is. It's purposeful. You know, whatever has purpose will have relevance. Yeah, it'll be relevant. If you know you need to iron your clothes, the iron is what?
Relevant.
Because its purpose is to iron the clothes. So if the iron could be used for anything else, it means its relevance becomes more dynamic, right? That also goes in to say that, of course, there are elements in this life that are purposed one way, and then there are elements in this life that are purposed dynamically, right? Even as people, there are things we are more good at than others. And even then, or even so, there are things that we need to sharpen. And there are things that without too much effort, we excel. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't focus on the things we can't sharpen. It's just a matter of us understanding that dynamic so that we also know how to deliver relevance in the different spheres of influence that we can impact.
DR, relevance, right?
Yeah.
Voiceover, storytelling with a background story of how it was hard for you to cry. I think that's an oxymoron. Like it's really a miracle that you're here.
Yep.
It's really a miracle that you're here. I think yesterday Benny and I were on a call after I spoke to you. I think I told you this morning, and we're trying to come up with what we'll talk about. We're trying to come up with what we'll talk about. We're trying to structure how we'll put those topics in place. And I think I reached the point where I told Ben to say, okay, look, we'll sit down with Destro and we'll ask him the questions that have been placed in our hearts, right? So I know Benny has questions, right? But I'll kickstart it. And my question is around relevance and popularity, right?
Word.
I know you're not at the prime of Zambian celebrity status, right?
Yeah.
Like, not many people know you, and not many people don't know you. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you're sitting in between. Like, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to understand how you manage your faith,
Word.
one,
Yeah.
your purpose in this culture that comes
yeah.
with ethos. You get what I
Of
mean?
course, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Three things. Three very major, I would say, guiding principles, right? Accountability, responsibility, vulnerability. So these three things will keep you grounded. They will push you past your limits, and they will stretch you beyond what you know. So, accountability. I am mentored. I have, I would say, many mentors, but three that are extremely close, and one that has walked with me my whole journey in the faith, right? And outside of them, I have my wife. My wife keeps me accountable, not only to the household, but also in the way that I walk, right? How I walk out my faith, right? Because she's more or less the closest in proximity. She wakes up next to me. She goes to sleep knowing, oh yeah, this guy, who uses his voice for so many things is my husband. He cracks dry jokes every now and again, right? So, there's that, and then outside of my wife, there's my brothers, my friends, right? One of my closest friends, he's been in the UK for the past two or more years, but we still have that rapport, and we're still able to catch up, help each other grow, speak into each other's lives as well, and we still make time to pray. You dig what I'm saying? I think it was easier when, of course, proximity, like when he was around and everything, we would meet up and say, hey bro, let's agree on this. As believers, if I do something out of step, he'll call me out on it. If he does something out of step, I'll call him out on it. You have to have people that are not afraid to correct you, to rebuke you as well, right? What matters is proximity. I've noticed that in Zambia, we like doing this thing. Well, it's worldwide, because I also experienced it amongst Americans, right? We have this propensity to correct someone at a distance. You don't know them. You don't know why they did what they did. You just don't agree with it. So you feel the need to create not a pity party, but a sympathy party. Like, there must be someone who agrees with me on this, so let's attack this person. And then the more people that come and agree with you, you're like, yeah, let's drive this narrative. Nah, but anyway, I digress. Accountability is very cardinal, especially as a believer, because the faith in and of itself is one of the most extreme choices you could make every day. Faith is a choice. You have to choose to say, I don't see it yet, but I believe. You know what I mean? And it really takes having people of like-mindedness around you, because you can imagine if you have people who are up and down, they're flippant, guess what will happen to you? You will become flippant, and it breeds a whole lot of selfishness. It breeds a whole lot of disregard for others. Vulnerability. So vulnerability and accountability, I tend to feel go hand in hand, mainly because the people who hold you accountable know the darkest parts of you that no one else sees, right? The people that hold you accountable also know the weakest parts of you that no one else sees, right? And the Bible is clear when it says that love covers a multitude of sins. The Greek for sins in that particular chapter is weaknesses. Like, I love the Amplified. It's weaknesses, it's vulnerabilities, it's, secrets and things that the general public doesn't know. That's what that word means in that particular instance, right? So when we're looking at that picture, we get to realize why we are placed in families. We get to realize why we desire companionship. We get to realize why we desire growing together with people. Iron sharpens iron, and so on and so forth. So accountability and vulnerability, they go hand in hand. And then the third thing is responsibility. Responsibility is basically just understanding who you are and what's in your jurisdiction. So I understand first and foremost, so I understand first and foremost that I'm a child of God. Okay, as a child of God, what's in my jurisdiction? Secondly, I understand that I'm a man. What's in my jurisdiction as a man? Thirdly, for me, more or less, the dynamic now is that I'm married. So that means I've become the priest of the home. What responsibilities come with that? I need to understand those responsibilities, and I need to understand what's in my jurisdiction within that responsibility. So those things are what keep me grounded. Having an understanding of those things is why I don't make certain decisions that I know will put each of those metrons in disrepute. A metron is basically a sphere of influence. So I do not make certain decisions that I know my mentors will call me up and be like, what is this you're doing? You know what I'm saying? Because even before I make certain decisions, I hit them up. I'm thinking of doing this. What you think? Is this a good idea? When I get that affirmation or that reconsideration, I go back to the drawing board or I take the action, right? It's also very important to have mentors who understand your identity and not mentors that try and imprint their identity onto you. Exactly. So, because we have a lot of that, we have a lot of people mimicking people who are mimicking someone else. So now they are lost. Exactly. Who's who? Yeah. But when you have people who are firm in their identity,
they'll make sure you're firm.
They'll make sure that you're also firm in yours. I have a very, in fact, one of my mentors is a pastor. He pastors a church, right? So I was there when they were calling hip hop evil. And I would wrestle with this and I would bring it up to him and I'd be like, what you think about me rapping? Like, I feel strongly I should be rapping. I should be doing the poetry thing. But I heard this preacher say it's evil. I heard this preacher say it's of the devil. Like, hip hop can't be redeemed and so on and so on. And he was just like, you have to find your why. Why are you doing that? Because if your why conviction comes from the Lord, you're good. I have no qualms with that. And then he gave me examples of other brothers in the same mentorship or other brothers that he is mentoring that are also like hip hop inclined and so on. And it made me feel relieved. I was like, oh yeah, Jesus still loves me. We good. Let's go about it. So those are the things that keep me from, like those three elements and how they seep into all of these like areas of my life is what keeps me from trying to do things because, this is the popular remark, and it basically just reinforces the conviction to stay relevant, especially to those closest to me. I must be relevant first and foremost to those closest to me. This is family. This is my household. And these are like my close friends. If I am not of use or relevance to these three categories of people, what am I doing trying to be a public figure? You dig what I'm saying? Because being a public figure just basically means you have the amount of exposure for us to see who you really are. You know what I'm saying? Like, of recent times, we've been seeing a lot of like pastors have moral failures. And they were famous. They were pastoring mega churches. They were, they had like 100,000 or more followers, some even millions of followers on your, social media platforms. The bigger the platform, when you get exposed, it's the bigger the impact to that platform. You dig what I'm saying? So that's why, for me, the push isn't to be popular. The push is to be relevant. Relevancy in and of itself is what in movie terms, we call it a slow burn, right? You still need the heat. You might not feel like you need it at first, but the moment you're hungry, you're like, yeah, the heat has use. That's what relevance is like. The heat is always there. It's not affected by load shedding, So yeah, that's how I would really just encompass all of that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Was a lot, eh?
I know we're listening.
I told you, it's mini sermons.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to add on before we move to other aspects, because I think he spoke so well on that. And
I think Destro spoke so well, and my brother here is someone that I'm accountable to.
Nice.
And you are someone that I'm accountable to anyway.
Amen.
So like there are a lot of things that I feel you've spoken of.
Yeah.
That is important for people out there to know, even when it comes to popularity and staying relevant. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think at the core of everything that you've stipulated is the idea of and the importance of why.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? And rightfully put, you call it conviction.
Yeah.
Like the importance of conviction. And something that's secondary is the importance of staying closer to community.
Exactly.
They say private victories, public testimonies. You get
That's
what I mean?
right.
As long as
That's right.
you're in check in private, and the public will have numerous testimonies and the like.
That's right.
But there's something that I wanted to add on to. Yesterday, I came across, I was at a connection group and I came across this statement from a pastor. And I think that's something that is prominent on social media now in our culture, right?
Yeah.
And it's that this pastor was saying the world has replaced the table with a tablet. And that's how come they always want to ridicule from afar. And I think that's something that you stated. The table basically being this thing that we've done
proximity,
here.
yeah.
As opposed to me saying, okay, Destro is this and that, and going ranting on social media. I have you here.
Exactly.
And that's the table.
Yeah.
A long time people would sit down with each other and confront each other like, oh, okay, look, this is what you've done. But people think they have the right to go online and talk about me, you, and Benny off the ideas that they've built based off the ideas that we've presented to them. You get what I mean? So
borrowed offense and everything.
One feeds into the other. And I think that's just something that I want to add and shed a light on, like the importance of proximity.
Yeah.
The importance of proximity.
Yeah.
Ben.
it's going great.
It's going great.
Yeah. So I'll just like, maybe if there's a young individual out there who would like to take advantage of you being here, especially in a space of voiceovers.
Okay.
I'd like, let me say, being an artist, releasing music and singing.
Yeah.
Not many people appreciate voiceover artists as much as they would appreciate a singer. Because I think most times it's rare to find a tagline that will come, say, after this, and this, is go like DR, So most times people think it's just a pre-recorded, maybe.
Oh, it's a computer.
Yeah, it's a computer.
Yeah.
So in case there's somebody who's passionate about voice over and they want to know how to start. So I'd just like to find out what your journey was and when did you realize you could do voiceover? Because the first question is, the people who can speak well.
Yeah.
But does it mean everybody who can speak well can be a voiceover artist?
Apparently, it's not even about speaking well.
Uh-huh.
It's about having a deep voice.
Yeah.
If you have a deep voice, then you can do voiceovers.
Yeah.
And I've seen that.
Really?
I'm telling you what it is. Every time, because the influx of people that reach out to me to say they're interested in voiceovers, they have a similar vocal register, and it's always deep. And they always ask me to say, "Hey, my friends, people have been saying that I should do voiceovers," and I'm like, "No." Just because you have a lower vocal register doesn't necessarily mean you should do voiceovers. Here's a little known fact that a lot of people disregard when it comes to voiceovers. Voiceovers are an audio representation of acting. You have to be a good actor to be a good voiceover artist. If anything, the title is actually voice actor, right?
Oh.
But we call it voice over because it will dub over something, right? Like, oh, over some music or over a trailer or over a radio program and so on and so forth. Over this advert, there is a voice. So when it goes into the radio space, it's a voiceover, and you are a voiceover actor or artist, right? But the title, in its initial intent and purpose, is voice actor, voice acting. So a lot of times I ask people, okay, you want to be a voiceover actor? Yes. Okay. Do you know how to act? Because to sell a product, you have to be convinced that it's worth selling. And that's the thing about acting. To sell the character, you have to be convinced that it's worth selling. You have to have that, whatchamacallit. You have to have that ability to channel, right? And so on and so forth. There's like a whole lot of like spiritual connotations attached to it. But voice over acting is a very important skill you can develop. So if you want to make money off of your voice, first find out to what range do you have with regards acting. It's not just reading a bunch of words in a certain vocal register. It's about intonation. It's about the emotion. It's about the clarity with which you are saying things. There are voiceovers that have made campaigns successful because they were able to drive sales. And that's another reality that a lot of voice actors don't have in mind. The fact that if you do the job, it must generate sales. If you do the job, people must go into the shop and buy what you are saying they should buy. If you are telling them to get tickets to a concert, after they hear the voiceover, they should go and it should inspire that call to action. That's basically what voices do. If voices are meant to drive a certain emotion, they should do that. If the voice is meant to drive a certain campaign, and the results of the campaign are that they want uptake, the voice should be able to do that. It's an added element amongst the many elements that they use. But the voiceover is basically the closest thing to the human element that they use to tell the story or to sell the story, So if someone wants to get into voice acting, I tell them to consider that. Secondly, you don't necessarily need me. You don't necessarily need, say, Chilulemba. You don't necessarily need Kamiza. You don't necessarily need Michi. You don't need any of us. You don't need Harvey. You have social media. The court of public opinion will tell you if this is something you should do. Because 9 times out of 10, if someone oh yeah, this person has gone ahead in the voiceover game, let me ask them for their opinion. And then maybe when I give you my opinion, as gracefully as possible, but it turns you off, you're now going to be vengeful as you step into the career path. You're now going to be like, I'm doing voiceovers because I need to show him. He told me I couldn't do it. I didn't say you couldn't do it. I just said that, maybe you need to sit down and think about this, right?
Yeah.
That's what I said. But you took it as rejection. And so now you're on a path of vengeance. I did the voiceover for UBA. Ha ha ha. In your face. Oh, okay. I did Nedbank. It's a multinational bank. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But it's not like I go around saying these things anyway. But I'm just saying that to say you have to know your why and you have to know what's involved in what you want. A lot of times, because I also tell this to like people who aspire to be musicians or poets. A lot of times people are getting into these things because they want the validation of popularity. They want the validation of popularity. Like, if I can do it like that person and get the attention that person gets, I will feel whole. And sometimes that's not a strong why. It's why people come and go, right? They have a hit song. It's making noise. Where are they now?
It's a one-hit wonder.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Because their why was not strong enough. And now they just live constant frustration. They live a life of constant frustration because their why was not strong enough, So everybody can do voiceovers if they know what it takes to do them. It's not about having a nice voice.
Yeah.
By far, I don't think I have the best voice for voiceovers, but I've put in the time, I've put in the effort to get called back and say, you know what, we're going to roll with you. We like how you say things, because 9 times out of 10, a client will pick you based off how you say things. There's someone who sent me like a sample of their work. Man, I'm even scared to tell them the truth. You dig what I'm saying? Because you can even hear it in the way that they're delivering, that they believe they are the man. They've really, it's like, I'll give this very wayward example. It's like that guy who goes for 2 minutes with a girl and feels like, I just conquered the world. And that girl is just thinking, I've wasted my time. I could have been doing better things in life. And that's why you shouldn't fornicate. But anyway, I don't know why I digressed. But it's basically to say, just because you believe you can do something doesn't still negate why you should do something. You have to have a strong why. When you have a strong why, when you do the thing, it makes even more sense. It's like it reaches a circle of completion, or a cycle of completion. Yeah. That's what I would tell them.
Nice.
It's a frustrating life though, because in Zambia, we don't have the structures. So you have to be strong to get to a level where you actually sustain a household just off your voice in Zambia. It takes years to perfect and to do safely. I urge all of our WWE fans.
Never try this at home or at school.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that we're exploring different facets of your life. We've spoken of rather your creative side. This is your poetry, your rap, and you've been in this country that you've attained some sort of celebrity status, right? Then we've spoken of something that's peculiar, that's helping you raise money, right? And for me, what I'm deciphering is you're one individual that believes in their identity. And this is why I think at the core of why people do certain things that are not for them, it's because of a weakness in their identity. For example, if when you look at voiceovers in Zambia, they are like, if I tell my mom, obviously, let's say 7 years ago, I tell my mom I want to be a voiceover artist. My mom will probably look at me and be like,
what are you thinking?
Just go to school. So it takes some sort of strength, a belief in your identity, faith. Right? Your faith, right? And the work that you have to put in between before you attain a particular success. And I want to commend you for that. Because now, if you look up people that are doing marvelous things in the voiceover spaces, your name is there.
Wow.
And it's a testament of the relevance, one, that springs from knowing fully well the image that you bear.
Amen.
And that's why I asked in the beginning. Imago Day. That's why I asked in the beginning, what's the message that you proclaim? You get what I mean? And I love that. I think this is an episode that I will constantly to just listen, right?
Yeah.
My question, DR, now is on something that's affecting many people. The advent of social media. And relationships.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
I know you are married now, but prior to that, you were in the dating pool, or whatever. I want to find out. I don't even know how to ask this. But first and foremost, how did you manage to, escape this ideology of the illusion of options.
Mm.
And I'm asking you this because holding this platform that you hold, like being a poet and speaking to so many people, and women sometimes, I don't know if it's all the times, they fall in love with potential, right? So when you're in a few stages, obviously a couple of them ones, ones that are like, okay, I think I need to settle down with that particular person.
Yeah, they'll be
But
like,
then,
I like where he's going.
yeah, I would love to be a part.
I want in.
I want the share of the cake. But obviously you are there and you've got someone as well, right?
Yeah.
Not that you're the perfect person to answer this question, but then how did you survive the tug of war?
Word. Yeah, I think it goes back to the first three things I mentioned.
Accountability,
responsibility, exactly.
and vulnerability.
Yep. One thing I wasn't when dating was vulnerable with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, right? I was vulnerable amongst the brethren. It's very cardinal to realize that you are only allowed to be vulnerable with who you will spend the rest of your life with. Because I have seen a lot of young men get scarred because they are vulnerable too early with someone who they don't even know will be there for them in the next 5 years.
But let me pitch in a question. How do you know?
How do you know that this is the one for me?
Yeah.
A lot of prayer, first and foremost, and enough situations. What I mean by enough situations is you have to see a woman in different seasons of your life. When you're on top of the world, when you are broke and down, where's her heart at? You know, I've seen a lot of men get hurt by women who were only just reflecting an ideal that the man wanted at the time and not necessarily being their most authentic self. Because one thing I'll tell you from experience as well is, even because I dated my wife for like close to 8 years before, going in and saying, okay, tualale tembale, expect vayama na vashibukombe. So before getting to that place, her and I, even before dating, we were friends, like just pure friends, friends where she even tunes you. There was this guy in my DM. This guy was taking me out today. And you know what I mean? So we were really good friends for like a whole year and a half. Then we then went about dating. And for me, when I started in, right, I started by telling her, look, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. I ain't here to play with you. But if at some point we're not on the same page, I ain't gonna hold it against you. Very important to lay your cards right out in front. Why I did that was so I could demystify how we approach the relationship. Because a lot of people are very mystical with how they approach the relationship. It's butterflies and vibes. And then when the butterflies and vibes disappear, you're now left with the choice. And you don't really like the choice, And really it exposes people's selfishness at the end of it all. Like, I want better for me. Like, okay, yeah, it's valid. We can't hold you to it, right? But at the same time, if you said, no, I'm committing to you, then, and also on the issue of accountability, our net of accountability became a bit wider, because now there are people in our corners who know that, we have something, right? And they're also actively involved in making sure we stay pure, right? They're also actively involved in making sure, hey, you said that at the end of this road, you want a wedding dress, and that you want a wedding dress from that guy, right? Are you still, you know what I'm saying? Like every 2-3 years, we were asked the hard questions by people that mentor us, people that care. Do you still see a future with this chap? Or do you still see a future with this girl? Like, okay, where is he at now? What's his vision like? Is he moving in the right direction? Do you think he can lead you? And so on and so forth. Honestly, as a guy, you must also ask yourself these kinds of questions. Like, if you know you can't lead yourself consistently, you can't lead a woman, because woman is a lot. And I even wonder how people even manage 2. People even manage 3, 4, 5. Me, I'm just like 1. I've experienced so many different dynamics. How are you balancing 2? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, you must have some supernatural strength, my guy.
Can I pitch in a question?
Yeah.
You said when you were dating your girlfriend, your wife now,
Yeah.
there were times when you'd be asked the hard questions by your mentors and all that, people that you're accountable to.
Yeah.
And these questions were revolving around, are you seeing your future with this particular person?
Exactly.
Were there times when your answer was no?
Not no. So you find, let's say they ask you this question, Nish, you've been arguing. It's going to be hard to say yes. But also at the same time, because you just know that, no, but we can fix that. You also don't say no. You're just like, well, and then now you start opening up to them and you tell them, look, this is what the situation is like. Pray with me, pray for me. But ultimately, what helped me continually see that, okay, yes, this is the right decision. This is my wife, right? I had to first unlearn the concept or idea, because I found it in the Pentecostal circles. Previously, I was atheist, right? And when I was atheist, it was purely for Disney Channel, the concept of a soulmate. Like, this is someone meant for you. And then when I came into the faith, I was led to a Pentecostal church, and I was like, okay, cool. I guess this is what belief will be like for me. And I found this very heavy belief in God has ordained a specific someone for you. I wrestled with that because, firstly, from the Disney lens, I was like, there are more women than men. How do you reconcile the surplus? Does that then justify polygamy? Right? Guang guang. And then now in the Pentecostal circles, you find, and there was like, this was so popular at the time, TB Joshua was still alive. So what would happen was, I don't even know why I said that. What would happen was, a pastor would walk up to someone and tell them, the man you married is not who God meant for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They'll walk up to someone else and go like, the woman you are with is not the one meant for you.
Hallelujah.
And then the church would definitely do that. Oh yeah, hallelujah, da-da-da, this, that, and the third. Go deeper, papa, da-da-da. You know who you should marry? Sister Janice. Come to the front.
Janice with the long hair.
Yeah, Janice with the long braids. You know what I'm saying? Because if they have long hair, it's not theirs. So I'm kidding. Or am I? Anyway, so
Destro, please don't get us cancelled.
I'm kidding. I really am. I promise you. These are the dry jokes I was telling you about. So you enter a space where you're being told these things like, nah, God has ordained this person for me. What happens when y'all break up? You break up with who God meant for you. What happens? People think life is a Nigerian movie. Oh, if you break up with who's meant for you, your life just becomes untoward. It just goes into a dark place. I know artists very famous in the States who stole people's husbands. And they're very successful. You know, only to have Usher hold them from behind. But anyway, you dig what I'm saying? You dig what I'm saying? I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a very famous story. Like everybody knows. It's no industry secret, right? I know people locally who they are married now, right? Off of relationships they were in. You know? I don't know how famous they are. Maybe they're famous at their church. So in lieu of maintaining discretion. I won't mention who they are, right? Because maybe that's not my story to tell. It's theirs, right? If they ever will be honest about it, it's up to them. But I know from hella proximity that this person was dating this person was about to marry this person, and then they met each other and they dropped who they were with and they're happily together. So life is not a Nigerian movie, you dig? And life is not a Nigerian papa who tells you that this is all God meant for you. God, in his infinite wisdom, gave us free will. You choose. So how do you know, to answer your question, how do you know that this is the one for you? Character. Does her character speak into who you are becoming as a man? Does her character speak into who you are as a man? If it does not, leave that girl alone. You're gonna waste time. No, but she's Becky with the good hair. Leave that girl alone. No, but she's prayerful, but one step nyanganya, leave that girl alone. Because we have to be honest. There are people who are very fascinated with the female anatomy. You want her to be a saint publicly, but behind closed doors, you want her to do handstands. That's just the truth. We have these proclivities because obviously, growing up, we all entered and fell into the pit of porn, right? So that basically perversed our idea of sex and sexuality, right? But beyond that, yes, God does redeem those things. And he says, all right, cool. Look, if it's just between you and your wife, keyword, your wife, I have no problem. Angels are celebrating. But outside of that, it's like, my dog, dude, we're having a funeral for you up here as a saint. You dig? So how do you know? Character. It has to be consistent behind closed doors or not. But hey, my biggest thing is we were never behind closed doors as well. It was part of our accountability. If ever I tried to step away or deviate from things I posited and said, hey, we're not gonna kiss. We're not gonna hold hands like this. We're not gonna hug for 3 seconds longer, right? If I deviate from that, she will call me out. She'll be like, hey, what you doing? We're not supposed to be doing this. Why you holding my hand like that? Why you hugging me 3 seconds longer? You said you wouldn't, man of God. And then now I got something to think about. I'm like, oh man, yeah, I know that one cares, ne? Because she's speaking into the character, right? Because if she sees something off kilter from the character, she's like, my guy, what are you doing? So that's what you should look for, because the onus is still on you as a guy to look. There's a reason why God calls it a search, because if he really ordained one specific person for you,
it wouldn't be
you wouldn't have to search.
I love that. And I want to cook this topic because there are a lot of questions that I have and questions that obviously other people have when it comes to
Ben doesn't have it. Ben, you don't have it?
No. We'll move it.
When it comes to obviously relationships and all that,
Yeah.
And there's this thing that you consistently mentioned in your explanation of having this character, right? And I asked you if there was ever a time when your answer was no, and you gave a context of where your answer was coming from.
Yeah.
But I think my question on top of everything that you've explained is there's this theory that I've heard. Let's just call it a theory, right?
Yeah.
There's this theory that I've heard, right? And it's that embedded in love is compromise, right? Others call it sacrifice, others call it compromise.
We're gonna debunk that.
Yeah, so let's demystify. You get what I mean? It's compromise. And then I'm asking this question because you're a person that's now married and you married a person that you are dating.
Yeah.
So I feel you're the right person to talk about it. You get what I mean? As opposed to people that are not in the game. Like I don't think I might have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
But it's not, concrete because I haven't experienced the instrument of matrimony yet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so my question is love, compromise, right? You knew based off character, you knew like, okay, this person was the one.
Yeah.
But my understanding is you're human, right?
Of course.
And in your humanness, right?
Yeah.
There may be times where your humanity rather, there were many times where or when you were inconsistent in your character, right? In that situation, what do you do? Does it justify the reason to leave the particular individual, or it justifies the reason to extend grace? Like, I just want to understand the dynamic. I hope you get where I'm coming from.
I do. I think, listen to track 7 on Secrets too. I talk about all these things, from an artist's perspective. But essentially, compromise is a myth. Mainly because, and I know, the thing about the advent of social media is that people have really dug into Western ideologies, forgetting that they're extremely third world African. Extremely. Right? By that I mean
third world African.
Extremely. Because when you go home and your parents live with you, you go and wash the plates. Here you are, listening to somebody tell you, hey, he better cover that bill. Your dad ain't even raised you like that. He ain't raised you to say he should cover that bill. You dig? He told you should have your own, right? And anyway, I digress. But basically, I say that to say, with the advent of social media and how it has pushed forth so much information, not just so many anecdotes of information, but so much information, it's kind of hard for a lot of people to keep up. So it's like, let's say you use 3 different Vaselines at once. That's just gonna make you look weird, right? It's gonna make you look weird. Right? You use Vaseline by Blue Seal, and then maybe you use I don't know if it's Ingram's Vaseline. Maybe you mix them and you put them on your skin. It's just gonna feel heavy, and when the sun shine, you're gonna feel like you're melting, right? So in the heat of it, you will melt. Why? Because you have so much information and not enough skin to withstand the pressure. You dig? So compromise. During the advent of like relationship social media, I would say relationship social media 2020. That's when it started. Because before that, it was men are trash, right? And then in between that, there's still people that still purport men are still trash through the advent of relationship social media, right? No, if he don't pay, no, but you were saying you independent, ma'am. Stand on business. You an independent woman. Stand on that business. Why you want me to pay your bills now? Make it make sense, right? So anyway, I say that to say compromise is one of the biggest things that came out of like relationship social media. Like if he wants to watch the game, but you want to watch the show, compromise, baby girl. Let him watch the game so that next time
you're going to watch your show.
What compromise builds is resentment because you don't get to do what you want to do and you create score.
It's like someone owes you some.
Like you owe me. I let you do this time. You owe me. And a culture of creating scores in relationships is the death of it, because love keeps no record of wrongs. Right? That's how you know that. No, but I sacrificed this for you. Can't you sacrifice this? You're keeping score. We must all get to model our greatest hero. He always gave 100% and expected zero. How can you keep up with that? Jesus was the penultimate version of love, that he died for the church, his bride. You know, and
Most were still sinners. There was no compromise in that.
He didn't expect nothing in return. And the thing about keeping score is that you build these expectations that also you don't communicate clearly, and it builds resentment. You begin to resent your partner. So now when something goes wrong, you don't call out the wrong, you call out your partner. You see what I'm saying? What you should instead practice is not a culture of compromise, but resolve. I want to watch the game. You want to watch your show. Let's take a walk. Something we can both do that we are not against. You see what I'm saying? Because the whole essence of resolving as a couple is creating new culture. How can two walk together lest they are?
In agreement.
Agreed, or in agreement. So that's what resolution is about in relationships. And that's what a lot of couples need to, even married couples. There are a lot of married couples I've interacted with, sat down, they've been married even 5 years. And they've been compromising along the way. So now you can even hear it in their tone when the wife calls, the demeanor changes. And you're just like, but you've been married 5 years. You want out? What you mean? Like, look at your face when your wife calls. You are even bothered. All of a sudden, you're no longer fun. You see what I'm saying? Like,
It ruins
because you've been compromising. What does she want now? What does he want now? You see what I'm saying? Because you've been compromising this whole time, and it's been a detriment to your relationship. The best way to grow your relationship is to resolve, decide between the two of you, outside of the things that you like, that when you are together, we have agreed to move in this direction. Resolve helps build healthier relationships than compromise ever did.
Ben.
Nice. Yeah. You spoke of a relationship and social media, and you also spoke of proximity, right?
Yeah.
And you say it's easy for people to give advice to people who are very far because it's just on the screen and say what they think. So we've got this narrative of social media, different ideas are being put up there. So how did you protect yourself, or how do you manage your social presence?
Oh yeah. I don't post much. I post very sparingly. You know, outside of posting very sparingly, I love the fact that social media still allows you to limit what you get to see on your timeline.
Okay.
You can even block out certain words. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't. So that helps out a whole lot. It really does. So it really helps me out, especially with regards maintaining the sanctity of peace.
Yeah.
Social media can send you on a spiral.
True.
Social media can make you feel like you ain't doing enough, right? Because you're watching someone's moment. Because there are limits on social media. You can only do up to a minute.
Yeah.
Up to a minute, 30 seconds if you can. Nothing longer than that. And it's not like people are posting every day, but people are posting every chance they get, right? And also at the same time, people are doing this thing of they're showing you these moments in clips. So like they know that they only have 30 seconds to show you something. So maybe they're compiling stuff from January to date, and then they put it up, and then you're there like, wow, they're happening.
Yeah.
You didn't even notice that their weight fluctuated in the 30 clips you shot. you see what I mean? So because of that, one way I make sure that I'm protecting myself is to ensure that, number one, I'm very much about what do you call this? Blocking out certain words. I don't block people. I block what they could say. You know, so if I know this person will most likely say stuff like this, I block what they would say.
Yeah.
So I make sure that my timeline doesn't have gossip. I make sure that my timeline doesn't have slander. I make sure that my timeline doesn't have just anything I consider weird. It helps me. Majority of my timeline is information. Every time I get on social media, it must add to my learning. It must not take away from my learning.
Yeah.
Right. So that, and also just I follow the stories of very few people. because I know, okay, I'll learn something if I watch Kelly's story.
Yeah.
I'll learn something if I watch Fred's story, and so on and so forth. Oh, I'll find out something interesting about Ben today because he's posted. He doesn't always post a story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that helps me regulate my social media intake. Also, being married teaches you that your phone can very easily be a stumbling block to your intimacy. So you also have to limit how much screen time you get on your phone.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that the hard way, because there I was having a very productive conversation with my wife, and at the same time of having that productive conversation, I'm thinking about how can I quote her on my status. Yeah, I think there what she said. So as I'm thinking, I'm actually already typing it out, right?
Yeah.
And then she stops, and I haven't noticed that she stopped. And then I'm done writing what she said, and then she chuckles, and I'm like, what's funny? No, when you're done talking to your wife, you let me know.
Oh.
Like, what you mean? And then I look down at my phone.
Yeah.
And of course, the quote started with wife and then full colon. And I'm like, yeah, ne. I get what you mean. I think you are telling me to get off my phone.
Yeah.
And I disrespected you. You are in the flow of, expressing yourself. And I decided to take my eyes away from you and look at my phone. My phone is not my wife. I put it away. So from that point, I realized that actually it's a bad habit I have that no one has ever called me out on.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone's on their phone. So it's like it's already understood that, because we're all on our phones, you know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. So when my wife called it out from me, that's when I realized that, it's a problem. And then now I started trying to limit my screen time and everything. So these methods, plus the call out, have really helped maintain peace and only say something on social media if it's important and it needs to be said. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful, Destro.
Yes, sir.
I think when it comes to talking to you, I even told Ben sitting with Destro won't be one episode because there are a lot of things that we have to talk about. So yeah, obviously coming back here again. But I think as we are delving into just closing and everything, I would like to ask you, what would you love to tell young people like Benny and myself that are obviously navigating a world of trying to make money so that we can take care of ourselves and our potential partners, and also just navigating this pillar of influence in the world, which is entertainment, right? What would you tell young people that are aspiring to be like you?
Wow. I didn't know that there are people aspiring to be like me.
No.
Yeah. So, number one, build value. Because value is very much part of relevance. Or being relevant, you have to be of value. Build value. Know what it is and add tax.
Build value.
Know what it is and add tax. And then do not accumulate for yourself women. Do not accumulate for yourself women. I know that Andrew Tate and the whole manosphere, which started with Kelvin Samuels and everything, I know they spoke into something that was a dire strait for a lot of young men who felt unseen because of the advent of the Me Too movement and the Men Are Trash movements, and that kind of guerrilla feminism that stopped looking at issues from a political nuance to issues of sexual objectification and equalizing sexuality. when it began to do that, men started to feel like they're useless, like they don't matter, because every girlie is a passenger princess, but also independent, so it put like a lot of unnecessary and undue pressure on a lot of young men. And I'm here to tell you that that pressure is a matter of accepting. If you accept that pressure, you will be pressured. Exactly. So if you don't accept that pressure, if you reject that pressure, you will not be pressured. So how then do you reject that pressure? You create a counterculture as a man of building your value, knowing what it is, adding tax, and not expending that value of who you are as a man on just anyone. Because the truth is, as a man, and this is something a lot of women subconsciously adhere to, they don't necessarily bring it out this way. But when you are a man who has value, a woman wants to be associated to you because of the value, not because of you, because of the value. It's why when you lose value, she goes on to
another guy that has value.
That has value, right? Yeah. So when you build that value, it doesn't mean that, no, now I've built the value so that I can attract the women. No, you've built the value because it's who you are. So if you have someone fall in love with you, they should fall in love with you. Because a lot of young men, the mistake that they're making is now that they are having a sense of value. They haven't yet built value. They just have a sense of it because the environment is ripe for it. You are in the You're in the workplace, right? And in the workplace, you're getting a good salary. This salary gives you enough wiggle room to do whatever you want with it. If you already have sorted out your immediate responsibilities, such as supporting your family, paying your rent, buying food, sorting out your logistics, you find, I still have wiggle room to play. Don't play. Continue. Use this money to invest in the things that will give you value. So this is asset dispensation. Start looking into land, start looking into shares, stocks, bonds, whatever the case may be. Start to look into those things as a young man, because by the time you are 30, and you look back on your investments and you continue building these investments, you will be happy with your decision. And because we've said that you have to look for women whose character is in the right place and speaks into who you want to be, she will also spur you on. She'll be there being your biggest supporter. Come on, baby, let's go buy land in Chongwei, which we're going to give to our grandchildren. They're going to be a woman of vision. Because you have vision, she must also have vision. Right? But I see a lot of people who are dating with impaired vision because all they looked for was what are they attracted to, and they didn't look for things that were worth it. Because at the end of the day, as a man, you also have to reconcile with the fact that the moment you allow a woman into your life, you are either building it or breaking it in that instance. You dig what I'm saying? So that's the thing. Like, it's very important that you build value, know what it is, and make it taxable. Because when it's taxable, you won't just date anyhow. You won't just take people's daughters out anyhow, because you'll be like, nah, she has to be worth it. If I'm going to expend this money, I know that the return on this investment is a future, But like I said, because of constantly doing comparisons, you'll be like, okay, he took her to SA, I'll take her to Dubai. When it's my 10. You're even waiting for a 10 instead of focusing on building your value as a young man. And that's how we have a lot of men who don't even know what it means to lead. When you tell them, oh, you are the priest of the household when you get married, what does that mean? They don't know. Why do they not know? Because the focus is on other things, So those are some of the really critical things. I'm still learning those things, even as a married man, right? Because the dynamic as a married man is sometimes the ring attracts people. There are women who will just see that, oh, he's married. He can take care of me because he takes care of a home. The wife can go deal with him Me, I just want a piece of him.
Yeah.
I want him to give me money. I'll give him back rubs and sex. And he can go home to his wife and kids. Like, there are people who literally have decided this is my small corner in this man's life. You dig what I'm saying? Why? Because, if we're being honest, most people don't like to work hard. So they choose the easy way out.
Yeah. You know, that's really crazy, DR,
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons why Ben and I even started this podcast, Voices and Choices, is so that we can bridge the gap between people that have experienced stuff and the voices of people that have questions.
Oh,
And
yeah,
one
nice.
thing that we've noticed in our society is young men are more or less neglected because women are pioneering mentorship groups, mentorship couches, mentorship, truth teas, you get what I mean, coupes. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But when you look at men in our society, it's like they've neglected the young man, right?
And men have accepted this.
And men have accepted this, you get what I mean? And the danger there is if you neglect the person who's supposed to be the head of the home, you've destroyed the generational family.
Pretty much.
You get what I mean?
Much.
And that's why we asked you what your advice is to young people. And that's why most of this conversation has been pivoted on the right way of doing relationships. You know what I mean? That's why we asked you about your partner, how you navigated being single into marriage. That's why we asked about what drives your revenue, and then how your identity plays a very impactful role in that. So that as young people are listening out there, they'll know that it's pivotal to know what your identity is.
That's right.
And it's pivotal to be accountable to somebody, and we appreciate that.
Word.
This was impromptu. We appreciate you coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, as we come to close, I would say thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. My key takeaway is relevance.
There you go.
Spoke much about relevance.
That's right.
Being famous. I think you guys play with words better, so you may know the major meanings of these things. But being famous can swing both ways. You may be famous for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
But I think relevance stands on its own.
That's right.
So I think my key takeaway, even for people out there, is let's strive to be relevant. Let's add value, like you said, and add tax.
That's right.
So I think I've enjoyed the episode.
Word.
As a Destro, we're calling you back, and this time it won't be about this. We wanted to get this out of the way.
Wow.
You get what I mean?
Yes, sir. Nice.
Thank you so much.
There's so much we can talk about.
Sure. And before we close, I just like to admit, there are certain times I go back to songs like Freedom and Lion.
Oh, wow.
Just because.
Wow.
Just because of.
Those are all J-Rocks.
Yeah. I'll just go back to them because you took, big shout out to J-Rock.
Yeah.
Well, no, thank you very much.
That's the big bro.
Yeah. No, I think we'll close here.
Man.
So it's Voices and Choices. As we come to a close, we say peace.
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 All right, thanks.
In the Middle East.